Hi, Zizaran here, and welcome to another Path of Exile University with me. And today we're going to be talking about mapping, the endgame of Path of Exile. So this lesson is going to cover mapping from all the way at the basics, like the very, very start, and then all the way to endgame. And if you followed everything explained yesterday, this lesson is basically going to be a natural continuation of it, but in a more condensed manner. So imagine you just cut to maps. Our aim is going to be to make you familiar with the mechanics so you can reach Pinnacle and Endgame bosses. And for specifically mechanics, boss guides, tips and tricks, we have a lot of videos like that, like covering Betrayal, etc. And league mechanic videos, and also like just catch-up videos if you missed the league here and there. All the guides have passive tree and gear sets in PoB, and you should aim what you should aim for when progressing your atlas. Right. So what are maps in Path of Exile? Like, there's loads of different end games. There's like older games like Diablo 2 that you just have like redoing parts of the campaign. Oh, sorry, Rocky. That's funny. You have older games like Diablo 2 that is just running the end game. Is just doing the campaign. But then in Path of Exile, you basically craft your own campaign. So it's an item, you put it in a map device, and then you open a new instance. You get 6 portals here. So you could die 6 times on softcore before you fail that map. So it generally has a predetermined theme. A lot of these are reused assets from the campaign. It'll be anywhere from like 300 to 600 monsters in the map, and then it'll be a boss fight. And these are the main endgame of Path of Exile, and every other endgame or every other feature is accessed through maps. So everything is connected to this system. And maps are part of the Atlas. It's kind of similar looking to a skill tree in a way. It actually has its own skill tree. But yeah, it's like a big atlas of worlds, and we'll be talking about that. Maps are actual items as well. They'll go in your inventory. They have their own stash tab that you can buy, or you can put them in normal stash tabs. They are craftable, and they all have their own unique item ID, which is actually pretty important. It's hidden and you can't see it, but let's say there's a map called Mesa, right? If you have 3 Mesa maps, like it's not like stackable currency. Like for example, if you have 2 alterations or 3 alterations, you can put them in the same stack. Maps are very unique, and this is pretty important. Maps can be either normal, magic, rare, or unique, and they can be enchanted to have multiple added mechanics or bonuses. So delirium orbs, you can have harvest, sextants, or anointments. And like these are all like endgame mechanics that we'll teach you about. So this is what the current atlas looks like. And this is changing. I don't think we have a new image of the one that is coming. That'll be during this week. I'll probably make a little bit of a follow-up episode about any of the initial plans I have and how I'm going to deal with the atlas, because there's a lot of tips and tricks of what you can do. But you start like down here in the center, and all the way up here is like the furthest of the end game. And it really just could be like described as a map of maps. And it'll contain all of the normal maps, and there are some unique maps. There are some unique maps that exist that are not on the atlas. That's just generally because they feel like it was either too difficult for the general player base, or that the maps were too rare, that they didn't want people to feel like they needed these for completion. But they do drop their own. They do drop their own stuff, like their own uniques and stuff. And yeah, you progress from the bottom towards the top, and they're connected to each other with dashed lines or ant lines. I like to think of them as little ants traversing the atlas. And like a map like this, these would be called either a connected map or an adjacent map. Whereas these, for example, would not be connected or adjacent. Maps can start dropping as early as Act 8. Actually, technically the Act of Act 7. But by the time you finish the campaign, you'll probably have anywhere from 3 to 10 maps. And there's map tiers. So we refer to the lowest tier as tier 1 maps. That's map level 68. And then 75 would be tier 8. And then monster level 83 is tier 16. So 1 monster level equals 1 tier. And then we have normal names for map ranges used by the community would be white maps is tier 1 to 5, yellow maps 6 to 10, red maps 11 to 16, and then there are special bosses for like there's special boss icons for like Elder, Shaper, or just various different bosses. So this can be kind of confusing, but when we say yellow map, we don't mean a rare map, because a white map can be rare, but you wouldn't call it a white yellow map. So white, yellow, and red maps specifically refers to the tier, not whether it's magic, rare, or white. And yeah, on the other hand, running a white map, yellow, that means running a white tier 1 to 5 upgraded to rare. But yeah, normally people just say like rare map. We don't have the best naming skills. Finishing the objective of the map is typically killing the map boss, and that completes the map. If the requirement is met, it grants an Atlas bonus completion. So if you want to kill the map boss and you just want it to be able to drop in the future, regardless of whether the map is, close or connected or adjacent, you can just kill it white. This even works for like red maps later on, which will have more complicated bonus completions. But if you want the bonus, then you will actually have to fulfill the goal and then kill the boss. And you can see whether or not you have the bonus completion or not by holding Alt while you have your mouse over the map, and that'll show you the objective status. So how do you get maps? Completed maps drop from any other map if the level requirements are met. So that means that, like, I could take, if I'm doing this map up here, this red map, I can drop this map here. However, if this wasn't completed, I wouldn't be able to drop it while doing this map up here. So uncompleted and connected maps can drop from any other connected map if the level requirements are met. So normal monsters, they can drop maps of the same tier. If you're in a tier 6 map, then normal monsters can drop other tier 6 or lower maps. And then magic and rare monsters can drop 1. So again, if you're in a tier 6, those can drop a tier 7. Normal monsters or rares or anything can never drop 2 tiers higher than the map you're in. That can only come from the map boss. So if you're in a tier 6, that can drop a tier 8 from the boss. And the Atlas bonus, that actually now gives Atlas points for the Atlas skill tree. That is newly added last patch and pretty well received by the community. It was probably one of the best changes they've ever done. And that is a really, really good way for them to do it. So the chance to drop 1 tier higher is now on Atlas passive skill tree. So if you played Path of Exile in the past and you're coming back, it no longer gives you a chance to drop higher tier from the actual Atlas bonus. That is on the Atlas skill tree now as passive bonuses. You cannot get a map to drop at the tier you want if it's not visible on your Atlas. Not visible, map cannot drop. You need to be able to search for it, basically. We have the game uploaded here, but like, for example, if I'm clearing one of these here, that beach, you see it's like not highlighted. It means that I can't do it, or I can't get it. For League Stars, Kirak is the most powerful tool for buying uncompleted and high tier maps, and you really want to save up chance orbs. Very, very important. You don't really want to use chance orbs on gear or anything like that. There's not like a massive reason to use it on gear anyway, but like you are going to end up using quite a lot, like between 20 to 50 chance orbs. Very, very early in your mapping. Kirak will sell you just a lot of stuff. And he basically has his own atlas, so it's not connected to what you've done. Like, for example, even if I haven't completed that beach, Kirak can probably sell me a beach. And we can just like demonstrate that real quick since I have this open. Wait, where's my Kirak? This character just finished the campaign, so I think I need to talk to him again. So the chance orbs, the reason you want to save that is to buy items from Kirak. So here you can see that he's selling Moon Temple, Necropolis, Shrine, Arachne Nest, Palace, Mesa, Vault, and you want to buy these. And then he resets, all of those maps reset every time you do one of his daily missions. And then 3 of the same map can be sold to a vendor. And that produced a random connected map of tier or of 1 tier higher. Actually, it doesn't need to be connected at all. It's just completely random map of 1 tier higher. Does not need to be connected. Now I can log on and demonstrate that a little bit, because it's a bit of a complicated feature. I think it's very worth showing and try to get you guys to understand that. Let me just dump all of this. Now, it might not make super sense for everyone, but hopefully a good amount will understand how it works. I'm going to remove that. That's a bit of an endgame mechanic. So I have a lot of necropolises. So this is a good example. Okay, so first we're going to look at where necropolis is, right? And this is currently a full filled out atlas. Here we see that necropolis is all the way in the bottom right. That is where that map resides, right? But the important thing here is that it's tier 3. So if I search for tier 4 now, you see that there's cemetery, tower, overgrown, thicket, ghetto, temple, conservatory, and mausoleum, right? That's all the maps. That's all the maps that we have that are 1 tier above. Now, as an example, all right.
Hello.
Here. So, here, these 3, they sell for necropolis. And no matter what way I put these in, it doesn't matter. And this refers to that unique item ID, right? Like this map here, literally this map here, this has its own unique item ID. It's very different than currency, right? Like if I pull out a stack, like this alchemy doesn't have its own unique item ID because now it's part of that stack again, right? So hopefully that makes sense there for the difference, that this is very a static item and it can never be like stacked. So no matter what I do, these 3 will sell for mausoleum, and no matter what I do, those 3 will sell for cemetery. And it doesn't matter any way I put them in, they will always sell for the same. However, what if I now take 2 from that stack and 1 from this stack? Now these item IDs are forming a different combination, right? It's these 2 and that one. So now they're selling for ghetto. They're not selling for cemetery or mausoleum. Now if I do another one, now it's for thicket. Now it's for overgrown shrine. So now you kind of see it, like think of it as a big recipe, right? Let's say that this is the number 13. It's obviously a lot higher than that. It would be in the millions. But let's say that this is 13, this is 17, but then this can be like 18, 9, 6, 4. And you're basically making a different equation each time. So by just experimenting with this and experimenting with different maps, you're able to get any map of the tier above. I think as long as I think it's either if you have 7 or 8 maps, or at very least 9, you can get any map of the tier above. So you just gotta play around with the combinations. This is extremely valuable at a league start. So just remember that they own their unique map, and you can just play around with different ones. And that way we have access to any map on the tier above. And they do not need to be connected at all. Because obviously, like we have Necropolis all the way here, and we're getting all the maps over here. So just very, very useful feature. Just play around with it. It'll, if it didn't click just from the explanation, it'll click very quickly once you start playing around with it. And they cannot roll unique maps. So, running the maps that you have will generally give you higher tier of map drops. They are not a guarantee, and they behave like any other item. But if you just keep running maps, you are going to get them. And it's not just, you're not always going to go up. Sometimes you'll get a, just say you're running a tier 3 map. Sometimes you'll get a tier 3 map. And then maybe when you run that, you'll get a tier 4. And we have loads of stuff on the Atlas tree to like give us a higher chance of dropping higher tier maps, etc. So by default, you gain 1 Atlas mission of each type per day based on the highest tier of map you've completed. So if you've done a yellow map, you're going to get yellow missions. If you've done a red map, you're going to get red missions. So a lot of people do like rushing, so they've done a red map pretty early, so at least they start getting red map dailies. Especially getting the Kirak mission reds is really, really nice. And you can get oh, and these are also old league mechanics like Bestiary, for example, or Incursion, Delve, or Betrayal. And you do get one of each per day. And you can get additional missions from random rewards, map bosses, and the Atlas passives also have additional missions per day. Like, for example, there's a node that lets you get one additional Kirak mission per day. I actually respec into that around 5 minutes before it resets, which is usually either midnight or 1 a.m. my time. So 5 minutes before that, I would respec into that on the Atlas tree. And then once I've gotten the extra one, I spec out of it again. You don't need to have it the entire day. Mission rewards can be upgraded or changed with the Atlas passive tree and related to the mission type you want on the Atlas. So there would also be things that would give you a higher chance for bestiary, for example. Missions add monster mechanics to the map. So if you do incursion on the map, that'll actually add incursion. And you can't do two. So you can't have bestiary and incursion on the same map, pretty much. So Einar adds beasts. And we have videos for all of these mechanics. Jun spawns Betrayal, and Nico spawns Nodes of Soulfight. Alva adds Incursion, spawning 3 temples, loads extra monsters, and actually really good loot. These are particularly good if you're trying to farm a specific divination card. Maybe your guide will say that you're supposed to farm a tabula in certain maps, etc. Manipulating an Incursion temple to high level early on grants you a source of higher tier maps as well. So the final temple level, and it's basically create your own dungeon, is the average tier of incursions and plus 10 levels up to the highest tier that you've done. So if you do 3 tier 3 maps, these are level 70, and 1 tier 9 map, the entire temple is going to be tier 9. So this can be a great way to build your map pool early on. And you only need 1 high tier map. And Kirak allows you to run a free map from his selection. They can be ones you haven't unlocked yet, and that'll help you unlock things. It's also just incredible value. And whenever you start a new Kirak mission, you don't have to finish the map or even enter it at all. All his vendor stuff will reset. And this is very important to just buy maps at the start of a league. You also get scouting reports, which will reroll Kirak's mission selection with either specific results or more favorable of some things. Let's see if I have a scouting report ready. I do. So I can just quickly demonstrate here. You can see here, I'm selling loads of high-level maps. If I hold Alt down, it'll say everything's completed. And on the Atlas missions, we have 3 different tiers. And then I like to scroll through these because these can be very, very valuable. There are specific ones which I didn't get here. Here we have a unique map. Maybe I need that. But you can see there's loads of different rewards. Now we're going to pop Explorer Scouting reward and everything resets. Now I have the option to fight some endgame bosses. This one's particularly scary because I have no idea what mods they are. And here we have the thing that I, especially at the start of the league, search for the most. So as an experienced player, and I really want to make a video covering every single map here. But as an experienced player, I have a rough idea of what divination card drops in every single map. And at least there are like particular ones like, Residence, etc. that drops really good divination cards like Dapper Prodigy that gives you a 6th item level 100 chest. And the chest will be random, but still, it's really good. Then you have other maps like Dungeon or Cage and a few others that will drop chains that bind, which is another 6th chest. And then you have other maps like Orchard or Courtyard that will drop a 6th divination card for bows. So what I do at the start, I literally pretty much will only find the stack of divination card maps. And this is one of the big reasons that I get 6th so early. Like, some of the maps are actually fairly likely. I feel like very often in the maps that drop chains that bind, when you get one of these, it feels like a 30 to 80% chance somewhere. Like, it's a high number. It doesn't feel like a 1% chance. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a very high chance that you get the 6th card. And you get a full stack. You don't get some of the cards. So very often at the start of a league, I am just looking for that. And I would save my missions. Like, I'm mostly checking with scouting reports, and I would save my missions. And we can just open a mission here. So let's say that I do open that, right? You can see now that everything is reset. Here we have another one. Find a stack of divination cards. Shrine has this super expensive card called the Fiend that drops in it. We have no divination cards here, but they will reset too. No divination cards here, but a unique map. Maybe I need that. And the purchase item pool has reset as well. There can be really, really good things here. Right. So this is what the Atlas Passive 3 looks like, or at least 2/3 of it. It is actually that big. I can show that in game as well. This is what mine looks like. And Octavian had a really good tweet near league start, because everybody was very worried if they had an optimal passive tree, because there isn't really one. It changes a lot what you need at the time, and there just really isn't anything wrong you can do within limits. But even like, since the travel nodes are so good, just pretty much everything is good. So Octavian tweeted, that Atlas tree you planned, it's probably fine. Which was extremely funny, because later on, Octavian had a bug where he couldn't respec his Atlas, which I found hysterical. So I just quoted the tweet back at him. He couldn't change it at all. I don't think the bug lasted very long, but incredibly amusing to me. But yeah, so your maps now have their own passive tree. Obviously, this is probably going to seem very complicated. I do have guides for like some generic, really good Atlas trees. But yeah, obviously, you're a new player, you're like, oh my god, another skill tree? I still haven't figured out the character one. This was introduced in 3.17, and 3.18 is updating it and adding more to it. There's going to be basically large keystone passives that'll alter the Atlas massively. So you gain passive points for completing a map bonus objective and completing Endgame bosses and the Maven invitations. The Maven invitations is basically, she really likes to watch, so she makes you fight loads of monsters at the same time, like bosses, and sometimes endgame bosses. And then passives affect most of the maps you run, changing them to suit your needs and personal goals. And there are some Atlas passives that will only affect the unique boss of a map. Bonuses include league mechanics, map drop increases, bosses, and influence monster bonuses, added monster changes, or added monsters, and changes to old mechanics, and more. So it really gives a lot of player autonomy? No. Agency. I keep forgetting the word agency. It gives a lot of player agency. Like, you really can choose so much. And in the new Atlas, you can basically sell league mechanics that you don't like. If you don't like Blight, you can literally make it so Blight doesn't appear on your Atlas anymore, but other mechanics have a higher chance of appearing. So you really have full control over what you want to do. And you can respec these passives with an Orb of Unmaking, and one orb equals to one Atlas passive respec point. You can receive some respec points from invitations, and yeah, they were pretty common. They were pretty common. I would like to think on solo self-on playing the entire league, I got 400 or 500, maybe more. And you can buy one Orb of Unmaking with 2 Orb of Regrets from Kirak. And obviously they're really good combos, but they're not necessarily the best for you. If you're having fun, you can't really go wrong with it. The only one that is like, I don't think I ever respect out of this, the entire league, is the Essence node. And I don't know what they've done, if they've kept it, if they've nerfed it. We don't fully know yet. But the Essence node in 3.17 was the single strongest node on the Atlas. It was the only thing I didn't remove. Essences are a very, very good way of crafting, since they guarantee one stat. And yeah, just incredibly good. So some passives are for bossing, some are for mapping, and some just change the rewards of a mechanic or buff it. So yeah, there is really no best tree. And if anyone claims that they have a best tree, even me, it is just clickbait. There is no best tree. It is very, very important to be fluid and just kind of get a general understanding of how it works and when you want to respec. There really is no best one. It does not exist. So, you can check out 3 of my videos on YouTube. They're all called "This is the Best Atlas Tree." No, I'm just kidding. Play the content you like with the new Atlas passive tree. How I got insane gear on SSF with the Atlas passives, and great Atlas passive trees for mapping, bossing, and a softcore trade. So again, it's just important to figure out what you want, how to change it, etc. There really is not a best one. And this beautiful thumbnail was actually made by Reddit as a joke, because as soon as people saw the passive tree, they thought of me, which I thought was very sweet, and we just decided to use the thumbnail. Um, it's so good. I forgot about it. The best ways to figure out the passive tree is pick mechanics that you want to do and focus on them, right? Like, for example, I don't like Blight. I'm going to be selling it. However, you might really like Blight. And the less people make like Blight, the more money you will make for Blight. So just focus on mechanics that you really like. Try to figure out like what you can make money around. And yeah, ask around with other players. Like maybe you have some friends that play that also like the same things you do. And yeah, just steal somebody else's passive tree. There is a grand total of 132 passive points in the current tree. We don't know if that's changing. They are adding new like Uber bosses. They could add more passive tree. I don't know. But yeah, as of 3.18, there's 115 maps on the Atlas and 1 point per completed bonus. White map need to be killed at a magic or higher rarity, so you could do the white map while it's like rare. Yellow map, a rare quality, and a red map needs to be rare and corrupted. Now, very often when I'm doing red maps in the start, I don't always do them rare and corrupted, because as long as I kill the map boss while it's white, then at least it has a chance to drop again in the future. And white map upgraded to red via void stones still only need to be magic. Void stones is, we'll cover it in a sec, but it's basically what you get from killing the Pinnacle bosses. And as of 3.18, you get 6 points total from Kirak's Eldritch bosses, Eater of Worlds, Searing Exarch, Maven, and Uber Elder. These are the 4 Pinnacle bosses. Well, I guess there's 5. And then we have Black Star and Infinite Hunger. And Maven questline invitations are a total of 5. So there's 1 quest per invitation and 1 for the first 10-way invitation. And then there are endgame Maven invitations. If you're a new player, these will be extremely difficult for you. They are like super fights. They are already for 4 or 5 of the hardest bosses in the game, and you have to fight them all at once. So you have the Feared. This is the hardest content in the game currently. We do not know if it is the hardest anymore in 3.18 because they're adding new Uber bosses. But the Feared is already insane. We just don't quite know yet if they're going to be harder or easier. But well, there's no Uber Feared at least. So it probably still is the hardest thing in the game, I would assume. Then we have the Formed, the Elder Stairs, the Forgotten, the Hidden, and the Twisted. They are extremely, extremely hard fight. Endgame maps are considered to be tier 14 and above. And when you're doing tier 14s and above, when you kill the boss there, you have a chance to drop other endgame bosses. In general, you will progress to tier 14 quite quickly, and it happens very organically now. Like before, if you're a returning player, you would need to do endgame things and upgrade your atlas in certain ways to be able to actually get to tier 16 maps. You don't need to do that anymore. Even without killing a single boss, you can go from tier 1 to tier 16. Well, you still need to kill map bosses. The following things and mechanics will happen once you start killing the bosses. Eldritch will start tracking its progress. This is a new mechanic, and we'll talk about the currency they give tomorrow. But Elder and Shaper Guardian maps start dropping, and Synthesis maps actually start dropping as early as tier 11 maps. So things like Cortex and Twisted Syntheth. I actually don't know how to pronounce the word syntheth. Syntheth. I don't know. Syntheth? You can start witnessing these maps for the Maven invitations as well, but obviously this will add quite a lot of difficulty to them, especially the endgame ones. And some Atlas passives are designed to only work in these mechanics. So, yeah. It might seem very overwhelming, but you will get the hang of it surprisingly fast. While you're progressing the lower tiers of your Atlas, you're going to meet the Maven. And I think it pretty much appears between tier 5 and 7 maps. And she's an Eldritch being who is now working with us to protect the Atlas. She's kind of scary and hold us hostage. So I guess we're just choosing her as better the evil you know that's currently not trying to kill you. And she has a fixation on collecting toys and death. It is a bit weird. And on a funny lore thing, the Maven can barely speak in tier low tier maps, and by the time you're in tier 16, she speaks fluent English, so she learns really fucking quick. But it's pretty cool how like the character develops. You'll be granted a new button on your map device in the middle, and activating this button and killing the map boss is going to witness it. So she'll add it to her collection. And after you witness enough different bosses, you'll be able to fight them all at once in a single arena called the Invitation, just to amuse her. And you can witness one copy of a single boss at the same time. Like, say you really find the Mesa boss easy, you cannot fight 4 Mesa bosses. That would be hilarious, though. Eater of Souls from the core map and Nightmare Omen from Permanent Pool are both based on the Act 4 Endgame boss Malachi, but are considered separate bosses. So it just can't be from the literal same map. They can be the same model. So the first 4 Maven invitations are part of her questline and have a guaranteed drop at the end of the map once you have witnessed enough bosses. The 5th invitation is called a 10-way, as you will need to witness and fight 10-way bosses to complete the encounter. And 10-way is also the first time you can start collecting the Crescent Splinter and the Maven's Writ, which allows you to challenge the Maven herself. You will need 10 of these, and that forms this. And the first time that you finish doing all the witnessing for a 10-way, so you witness 10 different tier 14 to 16 maps, it will guarantee drop a invitation as well, but only the first time. This is not the case for the really special invitations like Formed, etc. I wish it was. But you should now be able to buy them from what we understand, but we haven't tried that yet. And Maven allows you to witness endgame bosses, and these invitations scale from a decent challenge to basically the hardest content in the game. They are map items and can be rolled for more loot and more danger. And a lot of people will ask whenever there's a guide for a build, can it do the Feared? So that is the 5 endgame bosses called the Cortex, the Elder, the Shaper, Uber Atziri, and Chayula. And you have to fight them at the same time. Basically. The boss invitations have you fighting all of the witness bosses at once, and normally they're released slightly slowly over time. Some of them have timers where they will start releasing, so just if you're slow. The Feared, for example, is conditional, so once you kill one boss in the Feared, 1 releases. Once you kill the second one, 2 releases. You can also roll the invitation to include a modifier. Actually, that's not true. That got removed already. Ignore this line. That's removed. Drops the loot of the witness bosses and Crescent Splinters. So the better you roll, the more splinters you'll get. And once you have 10, it'll pop into this thing. Fighting the Maven herself is the most mechanical fight in the game right now. Again, we don't know much about the new Uber bosses, so they might be even more mechanical. But if you really like Simon Says, boy, do I have good news for you. If you don't, Maven's probably not going to be your favorite fight. Prelude is really, really good, and it has been improved. So it used to be pretty bad. You can still just get a belt, but even the belts are buffed now. So Maven is the only source of the rare awaken gems in 3.17, and this is changed in 3.18. So the new Uber Sirus can also drop awaken support gems. And these are a stronger version of the normal support gems. As soon as you get them, they're already the same as a level 20, like for example, Control Destruction. And then once you level them up to awaken level 5, they will get like a new special thing. Oh, and there are new super rare awaken support gems. What are they called? Exceptional rare support gems. And they only drop from Maven. From Uber Maven, I believe. Most likely from all the new Uber bosses. But at least from Uber Maven. After you met the Maven, other Eldritch Horrors will start to manifest. So this is the Staring Exarch. And here we have the Eater of Worlds. They are changing slightly, so we don't know how dangerous or how safe they're going to be now, but they've at least made the red ones slightly safer. Eater is the blue button on the right, and Exarch is the red button on the left. And then you have Maven in the middle. You can only choose one to be active at once. And you don't need to have one either. If you want to be safe, you can have none of them selected. Both of the horrors have their own questline and tracks, and this will actually show up in your quest log. And it spans 24 maps each, culminating in 2 boss fights for each track. And bosses have unique loot that are only available from these fights. And influencing a map with horror adds monster and eldritch altars to the map. The altars influence either the monsters, the player, or the map boss. So you get to like kind of choose how difficult things are going to be for you and what loot is going to drop. And you can also ignore them. Sometimes they can be just both really bad options that are too scary for you. So, Eldritch. The first bosses in the respective track is Writhing Invitation, or Shrek, for the Infinite Hunger, and Polaric Imitation for the Black Star. She's actually just called the Black Star. You'll see as soon as you start fighting the blue one why he's called Shrek. He has a swamp he does not like when you go into it, and he looks like Shrek. These fights are considered to be a challenge at league starts, and they have unique mechanics not seen anywhere else in the game before. If you're not aware of them, you'll most likely die the first time, almost guaranteed. And after completing the quest line, you can fight the bosses again by running 12 maps with the appropriate Eldritch influence at tier 14 or above. And the first time you fight them, it'll be a green unrollable invitation that is incredibly easy. It's basically a tutorial version, and you can kill it very quickly. The Polaric Invitation drops a ring called Polaric Devastation, which is extremely strong. And the Writhing Invitation had good loot, but they were bugged and they nerfed it mid-league. And bitter. They nerfed it within a week. I didn't get to play with it at all. Anyway, after fighting the first bosses in each quest track, you'll receive the invitations for the Pinnacle bosses at the total 24 total influence maps. Screaming Invitation for the Eater of Worlds, and Incandescent Invitation for the Searing Exarch. So these are... they're like fairly easy the first time you do them, the tutorial version, because they have very little life. And you actually get to bypass some of the mechanics. They're also kind of easier than the mini bosses, in my opinion, especially Eater of Worlds. Very, very easy, just doesn't have that many moves. I think they're changing them slightly, even in the non-Uber fights. They're definitely going to be very different in the Uber fights, though. But yeah, they're more simple and their damage output's very low. And it's because GGD wants you to roll the invitation like normal maps to make them harder. But that's not always worth it. Lastly, it was actually bugged where rolling it just didn't do anything. That was apparently fixed this patch. But lastly, rolling them did nothing. Did not increase the chance for uniques. So that was kind of sad. And a bit of a problem here is that they have the same rules as maps. So a lot of it doesn't really affect it. But yeah. The loot is really, really good. Both bosses have extremely desirable amulets and unique jewels on top of dropping Eldritch currency. And I believe they rebalanced Eldritch currency in 3.18. So we're going to look at currency on the next class tomorrow and how to craft with that. Specifically the Eldritch currency. And after completing the fights, you can restart either track for another invitation or trade. Then we have Conquerors and Sirus. They are us from the past, basically, is the lore. And so they are maddened exiles who now infest the Atlas. And we basically went insane and someone trapped us in the Atlas. And we went even crazier and then we became evil. Well, I guess we're always evil. Anyway. Killing a Conqueror rewards you with their fragment. These are called crests. And once you have 4 different fragments, you can fight Sirus. So, similar to other boss fights. These drop from tier 14s or higher. And Atlas passives are... Atlas passives at 1 o'clock on the tree affect Conqueror maps and their loot. Show that real quick. Here. These are also changing slightly. They can drop Awakened Skill Gems and Conqueror Exalted Orbs. Awakened Gems are stronger versions of the normal support gem, and the Conqueror Exalts are used to grant items Conqueror Influence, allowing for them to roll additional modifiers. So incredibly strong. They cannot be used on an item that already has Influence, but for example... oh, wait, that's too low level. Yeah, this is excellent. So, for example, say that I really need Hunter Gloves which is advanced crafting, and I haven't found a pair, I can just influence them like this and then continue rolling on it. And now it is Hunter influence. You cannot use one of the others on something that's already influenced. So if this had Redeemer, I can't use Hunter to get both. Sirus himself is a great fight with exclusive loot and will provide you with a challenge, especially if you do it blind and you don't know how to do the fight. So I have boss kill guides on stuff like that for YouTube. It can be good to watch before you fight it, because a lot of the fights aren't super easy to understand. After a few fights, it'll turn into quite the pleasant experience, as all the mechanics are pretty consistent and it's fairly telegraphed. Guardians and the Elder. Elder is the OG Eldritch being, manifested by insatiable lust to explore the Atlas, and some douchebag, actually, another boss called the Cortex, let him out, and now he's harassing everybody. If you kill an Elder Guardian, it rewards you with a Elder Fragment, top left, bottom right, etc. And once you have all 4, you can fight the Elder. And Elder Guardians also start dropping tier 14 plus, and they are all the way at the top of the Atlas. You have passives that affect it, and they drop no notable loot anymore. They used to have their own unique loot. However, they put that into just drop anywhere loot. So they no longer have specific loot that drops off the Elder Guardians. They will, however, drop some Elder influence items. Elder itself is considered the easiest endgame boss. It has low HP, slow attacks, and a very simple mechanics. You basically just need to keep the Shaper, another boss, alive inside the fight, and then you get a Watcher's Eye, or have a chance to get a Watcher's Eye at the end of the fight. Elder drops 2 fragments for Uber Elder fight, and has a chance to drop 2 modifier Watcher's Eye, which is one of the most sought after items in the game, and he only drops a Watcher's Eye if the Shaper survives the fight. And Watcher Eye, yeah, it's probably the most randomly rolled item in the game, 0 to hero. Shaper is the creator of the Atlas of Worlds, and the father of Zana, which, if you're a new player, you don't know who Zana is. That. Killing a Shaper Guardian rewards you with their fragments, same as the Elder ones, and once you have 4, you can fight the Shaper. They are also at the very top of the Atlas, and killing a Guardian rewards you with their fragment, and have no notable loot as well. They used to have their own like loot-specific drops, but they were also just put into the random drop pool from anywhere. Shaper has a few mechanics that can actually kill you, but it is also very telegraphed. Has a very brutal slam. Shaper also drops 2 fragments for the Uber Elder fight, and has a chance to drop really, really good uniques like Dying Sun, etc. And here you see the 4 different fragments. So these are from Elder, and these are from Shaper. This is the Uber Elder fight. And you will fight the Elder and the Shaper at the same time. It's extremely difficult, and you basically have soft and rage mechanics. The Shaper also has a soft and rage mechanic, and so does the Elder, but they're a lot easier. And the Elder one basically doesn't exist. These can drop 3 modifier Watcher's Eye. And Watcher's Eye is a really, really cool, unique jewel. We can actually show one real quick, because I have a few lying around. Definitely one of the most sought after items. But for example, this one, while you have clarity, you get 9% of your maximum mana as extra energy shield. And if you have hatred on, your damage penetrates 15, cold resist. Some of these can be worth as little as 2 exalted orbs, and I think the most I've sold one for was 360 or 320 exalted orbs. So they can be extremely valuable. But yeah, very, very random. And it has other good loot. Both the rings are used in builds, but obviously are the most common items, so it becomes very, very cheap. And Dolph Divination card for 2 implicit corrupted Thread of Hope. And there are other really, really good loot as well, like the chest. Pretty much most things from Uber Elder is pretty great. Next up, we have Atziri and Uber Atziri. This is the endgame boss, and this is like the early game boss. Kind of similar to how the new bosses have a tutorial version. Atziri is like the tutorial for Uber Atziri. The brown ones are for the easier version, and then we have the green ones for the hard one. So these will drop by killing this fight, and these will drop from maps, loads of league mechanics. You'll get a lot of these. And Atziri was the first endgame boss in Path of Exile, and even to this day is pretty much the hardest. It's either always the hardest or second hardest. It depends a little bit on preference. With the new bosses getting Uber bosses, she might not be the hardest anymore. Maybe they'll make it Uber Atziri at some point. That is a token. Oh, yeah, that is unfortunate. Wait, do you know what I can do? I should have done this earlier. Haha! Solved! Why didn't I do that earlier? There. You see them now. Sorry, Tukin. Next up, we have synthesis maps. There are a set of 5 different maps which take place in a synthesized map. This is a old League mechanic that got scrapped basically, but they kept some of it. There are no fragments to collect here. All 5 maps are separate. There are 4 different distant memories, and then there's the cortex. Wonder if the cortex can only drop in 14 or also in 11. I'm not sure, but at least the distant memories can drop into 11 plus, and cortex can at least drop in 14 plus, also maybe 11. Have I got one in 11? It is quite rare. All of them have hidden random modifiers that you don't get to see ahead of opening them. So it can open itself, and it's just very dangerous. The memories can be quite easy, except for Twisted, which is the lightning one. Twisted Syntheta. The Twisted one is extremely dangerous and has one-shot several of my tankiest character ever. It is a ridiculous fight. Cortex is a pretty dangerous fight, but a lot easier than Twisted. Now, luckily enough, the Twisted has very low HP, so the best way is just to burst it down. And Cortex is extremely valuable and drops the Bottle of Faith, and also really powerful synthesized uniques. Bottle of Faith is one of the most sought after items in the game. Synthesis was also my favorite league. So, Breach Lords. You will encounter breaches in maps of any tier, even tier 1 maps, and you basically kill monsters in the opening, and then there will be hands that spawn, and you click the hands, and they're like dropping splinters. Once you have 100 splinters, they will combine to give you a normal breachstone. And breachstones will open a map to the boss's domain, which is a large breach. And there are 5 different types. Zoth, Esh, and Tul. They are the elemental breach lords. And then you have Ulnatul and Chayula. So Chayula is the hardest one, or the most endgame one. Upgrade breachstones via blessings gained by the boss or from betrayal. So there's several ways of upgrading. Like for example, if I'm doing a normal breach and get a blessing, then the next breach of that type I can upgrade it 1 level, or 3 if I find 3 of the blessings. Upgraded stones are a lot harder, provide a lot better loot, a lot better experience. So we have 5 tiers now: normal, charged, enriched, pure, and flawless. Flawless is ridiculously hard, to the point where it is almost not doable on hardcore, because characters very rarely get enough damage on hardcore to do them. So only the very top 1% of softcore can do them as well. It's easier to do on softcore because it's not so much about being tanky as it is about having at least 8 to 20 million DPS on your character. So if you ever fail one of these, don't be worried. Most people actually do fail one of them. Completing the Maven Invitation the Hidden is currently the only way to acquire Flawless Breachstones, as well as the Feared. So the Flawless Breachstones for the Elemental and Ulnatul one comes from the Hidden, and the Flawless Triula comes from the Feared. And then they have really, really good loot. Very hard. As you've noticed, there's a lot of repetition in the mechanics, and a lot of things are reused. And GDD has intentionally placed almost all the content at tier 14 maps because you're naturally going to the highest anyway. Anything before that is just considered leveling and preparing for the end game. So bossing isn't everyone's forte. Not everybody wants to do it, and you can choose not to engage with them and instead focus on map farming in tier 14 plus, and then sell boss fights to other players and buy loot of other players. And generally, bosses are the fun content, but some people just really like blasting maps and mapping. There's nothing any content creator can tell you that you're doing wrong as long as you're having fun. Like, as long as you realize it might not be the most efficient or the best way to do things, as long as you're having fun, only thing that matters. Don't let any content creator tell you different. Only point in playing video games. Unless it's a Sunday roast. Void Stones are quest rewards for certain boss fights. You get 4 Void Stones off the Maven, the Elder, the Eater of Worlds, and the Steering Exarch. And then you have, if you socket a void stone into your atlas, the tiers of the maps upgrade by some amount, eventually allowing them all to be tier 16. So if I open my atlas here, you can see these are the void stones, and this is where they go. So if I click them in, you'll see lines appear, and it'll start upgrading. So now the lowest map is tier 13, 12, etc. This won't affect maps you already have in your like map tab. It'll affect future maps that drop. And now with the fourth one, everything is tier 16. Very cool animation. Good job, GGG. Sextants are then used on void stones to add mechanics to the maps. So this can add monsters or league mechanics. And sextants will affect all the maps on your atlas and have limited charges. So 3 or 4 or 16. They can be stored for later use or traded with a surveyor's compass. So if you find a mechanic you don't like, you can sell it to other people. It costs 1C to remove it. Oh, yes. This is Uber Elder, not normal Elder. So all the Pinnacle ones. Leaving maps uncompleted. So if you don't complete a map, it prevents it from dropping normally, but it can still drop as a connected map. This strategy lets you to avoid bad layouts or make sure only one map of the desired tier can drop. So maps cannot be uncompleted, and that means that you can basically brick your atlas. Now, most people will eventually or pretty early want to fully complete the atlas, but early on, a lot of people don't. So the most common use is to farm a low level map for a specific divination card. This tactic saw a lot of use in the Gauntlet competition, like for example, leaving Courtyard as the only completed tier 5 map, and that allowed people to farm the Porcupine card, giving them a 6-thing short bow. If you're on trade, it's generally not worth your time to skip map completions unless you're setting up for a specific strategy. But for example, if I remove these now, you can see that Courtyard is a tier 5. So I wouldn't complete Promenade, Shore, Cage, Bazaar, Overgrown Ruin, Cells, or Coves. And that means if I was running, for example, Canyon, Grotto, Defile, Laboratory, the only tier 5 map that could drop no matter what was Courtyard. So it can be a really, really good strategy. And again, there's no way to uncomplete a map, sadly. Map sustain is a function of juicing up your maps to high enough quantity while limiting the possible pool of map drops to be as small as possible. So Atlas passives, which boost map drop chances. And then we have the favored map system and high item quantity. And you want as many monsters as possible and as much pack size as possible. You're not guaranteed to sustain a single map in any situation, but with careful planning, you can reach this point. We have a lot more coming in 3.18 with being able to like force the favored map to drop, and we'll explain favored map in a sec. Incursion and Delve city biomes are excellent for map drops as well. So very, very often, if a league mechanic doesn't have a lot of map drops, you're forced to do side content, especially early on. But yeah, use your character missions and reports to reroll daily maps once you have not yet completed them. So, favorite map ones adds 10 copies of that map to the map pool, and you can stack this as high as you have open slots. So why would you use this? You can increase the drop chance of your favorite maps drastically. So say I really like Shipyard, or I really like Coves, I really like Wharf, or I really like Cemetery. You can basically only drop that. So good layouts are more fun than bad layouts. Like for example, I really hate Grave Troll. It means that I have to wiggle my way through the map, and I don't like it. Some league mechanics also prefer a certain style of map. Like, for example, dungeon and really, really bad maps like that are really good for Blight. That can force it to spawn 11 in one wave. So you get 11 Blight rewards, giving you a lot of oils or Blight maps. Large open areas for Breach, Legion, and Expedition. And so you kind of want to find the right thing for you. And to favor a map, you just click, for example, boom, and then wherever Cemetery is. Where's Cemetery? Here, right, that makes sense. So then boom, or this one. They're changing this. So in the next patch, you can click the other favorite maps and that'll work. So that's pretty great. You'll be able to click it like that. And favorite maps, I actually want to give a little demonstration of how they work. So if we, which most players end up with eventually, if we do this, then we have every single map is tier 16. And like we said, there's 115 maps or something. Now, what that means is that there's 115 maps, right? So I'm not going to write them all out, but you get the idea. Now, so ideally I would write out every single map. And the way it works with favorite maps then, so we can do a quick example for one tier. Let's see. Let's just write down a few maps. So let's see, cemetery, tower, overgrown shrine. I want to emphasize how good this is. Toxic, Sirus, thicket, mineral pools. So imagine I've written out all 150 maps, right? But I'm favoriting cemetery. If I favorite it once, it's going to look like this. And the map device, or the map itself, is going to go like, okay, you dropped a tier 16 map. Is it a cemetery? Is it a tower? A toxic sewer, thicket, mineral pools? Or is it a cemetery, right? So now you can see you would have a very, very large chance of dropping a cemetery. And this is just by favoriting it once. If I favorite it 5 times, 2, 3, 4, 5, it would go, am I going to drop a cemetery, a tower, or round shrine? Or am I going to drop a cemetery? And obviously, like, ideally, all the other maps would be in here. And then if you favorite it 12 times... F5? There. It would do, am I going to drop one of these maps, or all the other ones, or a cemetery? So when you use favorite maps, it's a massive chance that you are actually going to get that map back. So favoriting the same map, very, very good. Juicing a map is the term for increasing the reward of a singular map. So you'll hear streamers refer to that when they're mapping. It's like, oh, I'm juicing, bro, or I'm giga juicing. Gigapint? And basic juicing consists of adding sextants. So sextants will add extra things to the map. We can demonstrate real quick. So now it's adding 6 additional packs of monsters that convert when killed. 4 additional packs of mirrored rare monsters, but also players are immune to reflect. 4 additional rare monsters in rare maps, or 2 additional strong boxes, 6 additional packs to heal. So you can see there's loads of extra monsters you can add. Now we've just added like 20 extra packs almost. Really, really good. You also roll the map higher. You can use chisels. You can add more monsters, get more pack size. Eldritch Influence is the most impactful one. And now in the next patch, if you're a returning player, before you could not use the scarabs for Elder as well as Influence here, but now you can. So you can add loads and loads of extra influence. It'll add more quantity, add more league mechanics, and you do want to have a good layout with good drops as well. So for example, a lot of people currently farm Brother Stash in the Cemetery map. It is a card that gives you 5 Exalted Orbs. A lot of others farm Nurse entire map. And then there's a new Mage Blood card that we don't yet know where it drops. Nurse is still in tower. And in Promenade. The aim of juicing is to spend as little time per map to receive the most out of the map as possible, and the methods are usually the same for both solo and group play. However, when you're doing group play, obviously you are investing less, basically, because you can split the investment with 6 people, and each person being in the group also adds like a bonus quantity. So playing in a group is kind of OP. Yeah, groups tend to be able to run tier 16 maps immediately due to how strong auras are in party play and just a big item quantity bonus from the party. And for the groups, the rewards are also split between party members, but still, you do make more than solo most of the time. When solo, if you can complete high tier maps efficiently, generally tier 14 or above, there's no reason not to run them. And if you're struggling with rares or the map boss, you can farm a lower tier map. And most of the rewards come from things not dependent on the tier map, just the layout, so like divination cards, etc. Running a lower tier map is not a loss in efficiency or loot, just a loss in XP gain, for the most part. General progression of choosing maps. That everyone should do this at league start list. White maps. You generally want to roll the magic with at least 2 decent modifiers at the start of the league, especially because you're early on have a big chance of running out of alchemies. Use your white master missions, especially Kirak, and like I said, look for the full divination card stacks. Yellow maps. Some people start using chisels on yellow maps. Not many. I wouldn't. I save them for red maps. However, last league I had like infinite chisels. So obviously they do tweak drop rates of things a little bit each league, but I don't think I've ever had as many chisels as last league. Do remember to use chisels while the map is white, so you only use 4 chisels per map. Roll the map rare if you have the currency and use yellow master missions. Now, normally people will alch and scour maps because they will use chaos on the map device thing. So you have the map device that can add link mechanics for chaos. Mine are free at the moment because of another mechanic I've done, but they do cost chaos. I swear. Red maps, chiseling here is normal, especially at tier 14 plus, and you always want to roll the map rare unless you really only need to capture the boss for an easier map for your pantheons. And you want to aim to get high item quantity, 80 plus, but don't spend 20 orb of alchemy trying to roll a single map. Now we have the what you want to be doing list. White and yellow maps. Choose a good layout and a map with good divination card drops, and you want to roll the map rare for this. And here you can also think about using Incursion if you have a good divination card in it. Incursion increases the chance of it dropping massively. And then start using basic sextants or whatever watchstones you have if you're going to farm hard. So again, like this is for div card farming. Red maps, you want to optimize your incursion temple to be tier 16. So you could do like a few tier 11s and 1 tier 16. And then you have a big chance of getting tier 16s back. You can corrupt the chisel rare map for a chance of getting an 8 modifier map. A lot more common on softcore because on hardcore there can be a lot of mods that will break your build or you're uncomfortable with running it. You want to have good sextants enabled to get more monsters and use your Kirak missions. And yeah, remember that it resets the Kirak shop. So you can also get expensive things like Cortex. Map choosing is not an instant return, and income is based on the averages. Like you could run 3 maps in a row and not get a single map back. This is really rough and painful when you've just started mapping, but if you've been running for like a few hours, you're generally going to be okay. Running a single map and getting unlucky is probably just going to demoralize you, especially if you invested a lot into it. And you'll often see players like invest into batches of 20 to 30 or more at the same time. And that ends up lowering the randomness a lot more. Makes you more comfortable with juicing. Like it sucks if you can only afford one. And you want to use a strict or higher loot filter, or you're going to be looting for an hour every map. You don't want to spend a lot of time looting. Never Sink filter, for example, is very, very good. You want to add as many monsters or mechanics to the maps as possible, and some map modifiers will add monsters on their own. So Beyond will spawn extra monsters from slain enemies, and then Beyond works even better with the more other things you're doing. Because the more other league mechanics you're adding, the more monsters you'll have, or more Beyond portals to spawn to begin with. Atlas passives from shrines, lockboxes, essences, and there are loads of combinations that work well together. We're going to have to see a little bit. Obviously, Nemesis is removed from the game and has been replaced by Arch Nemesis. Eldritch Influence adds a homogeneous amount of monsters to each map, and they also provide access to the Eldritch altars for extra loot. So also really good with Beyond. And both Eldritch passive wheels for the increased altar pack size. Map device options provide cheap additions. That's the ones I showed. And usually they cost chaos as well. And now we can do harvest. And prophecy is gone from the game. All around good sextant modifiers. Areas contain X additional monsters that deal Y damage like the ones we showed. The physical ones are harder because they come with proximity shield. We have increased magic pack size. Rare monsters contain additional rare monster packs. Players and their minions cannot take reflect damage. Area contain hunted traders. This is one of the best ones. 4 packs of monsters that heal or unique bosses are accompanied by mysterious harbinger. Any shrine is good. Loads of stuff like that. So the announcement livestream listed a few notable changes that I talked about already, but here they are in a more condensed list. So we have the new Atlas passive keystones that are going to modify your map greatly. We have new Uber versions of the Pinnacle bosses. Uba Elde. We have multiple influences in one map, and you can have stack influence maps. So you can have a Scarab, an Eldritch influence, and Hunter influence, 3 influences. Maven Atlas Invitation is more likely to drop from Maven Witness bosses, and can also be bought from Kirak after completing the quest line. Now, I really wonder if that'll actually let us get the Formed and Hidden, because they only showed the actual Atlas Invitation, but we'll see soon. Maps are rotated once again, so all the map positions are changed, and there are balance changes to Scarab reps per map tier. Are there any questions? Grasping Vines have been in some cases removed or nerfed. Now is a good time to jump back into PoE, yeah. Uber duper elder. You mentioned not completing all maps. What was the point of that? I would probably recommend rewatching the explanation when it goes on YouTube, but it's to only get that map for farming div cards. All good, dude. It's a bit of a longer explanation. I think the multiple influences per map will be very impactful. Why move to a vary or uber strict filter? So when you're mapping, do I have a good video explanation of loot filter in Path of Exile? I think I have one video, but I don't know if I can find it. It would be the old Stormbrand video where I was doing that like old Hierophant node where I'm showing off NEM3. That would be a good filter example video. But basically, when you're at the endgame and juicing the map, you're getting so much loot that if you're picking up things like transmutes and stuff, you're going to be banking 3 or 4 times. And I have a couple of videos about efficiency. And the way it works, right, is like the end game in Path of Exile, it's an infinite resource. Like you don't get to just do it once and then like time is money basically is what it equates to, yeah. Like it's just the faster you can do, like for example, right, a player that loots 3 or 4 portals per map and goes around clicking every chest because they're poor is going to stay poor. The person that's like running by a chaos orb and then people are like, oh, you dropped a chaos orb back there. It's like, I don't have time to pick up a chaos orb, dude. They're going to be a lot more richer. The best way to think about it is, would you rather spin a slot machine 1,000 times per hour or 30, right? You're probably going to get more money if you manage to spin it 1,000 and you didn't have to pay for it. So you just end up with like so much more. It's kind of silly because so I used to be a massive loot whore. I would pick up everything. I would pick up gems. I would have a red gem, a green gem, and a blue active gem tab, and I would have a red, green, and blue support gem tab. So I would pick up every single thing. But then eventually I was like, wow, the less stuff I pick up, I'm just getting richer and richer. And I've had several people that have watched my efficiency videos and said they went from only having 10 to 20 exalts per league to like 100 to 200. So I think a lot of that is like you're scared of missing out on things. At least that's what it was for me. So at some point you just realize that like the less you pick up, the more you get. And how do you manage the low level currency for crafting in Souls Alpha, alts and alchemies? In Souls Alpha, you pick up pretty much every currency, like alchemy and stuff like that. You generally end up with way more than you need. What I do is I will fill up my inventory with rares at the end. So when I kill the boss will generally drop a bunch of rares, right? I'll fill up my inventory and then I'll vendor my inventory. I won't like, I'll very, very rarely go back in a map. Right? Like let's say that the boss at the end of the map dropped 20 rares. I'm not gonna go to my hideout, vendor my inventory, and be like, there are 14 more rares back there. Let's go back in and start picking them up, IDing them, and be like, oh, none of these were good either. So stuff like that. So Chaos Recipe is not worth it. Some people, I feel like pretty much nobody anymore, but some people will do Chaos Recipe at the very start. I normally never do. Um, there's a couple of reasons for that. Chaos Recipe is a lot slower than you think. Because you're getting Chaos, but um, this league on solo self-fun might be tempting to do Chaos Recipe just because of Harvest being on the map device. It depends on how many other ways we have of getting Chaos. Like in Ultimatum, you were showered in Chaos. Like nobody should have ever done Chaos Recipe in Ultimatum. But in the time that it takes you to pick up the rares for Chaos Recipe, you're not getting alterations. And also the time it takes you to vendor them, you can make quite a lot of other stuff. And it's really boring. Like the main thing I play games for is fun, so I never do Chaos Recipe with very, very few exceptions. Exalted Charter Recipe, some people do it on softcore. I think it's too much hassle and not really worth it. I've never seen anyone be like, you know, they have like 500x and people are like, oh, how do you get so rich? Chaos Recipe. Like I've never heard that. Generally, only poor people do Chaos Recipe and Exalted Recipe. Or Exalted Charter Recipe. It is generally for poor people. So it might be a SSF thing this league to do solo self on Chaos Recipe just because of Harvest being on there. I don't know how much raw Chaos the league mechanics kind of go. Ultimatum gave a lot. You always ID. If I do Chaos Recipe, I do it unidentified. Always. I would never ever do ID'd Chaos Recipe. Ever. I would never ever do it in Trade League under any circumstance. There's a 0% chance I would do Chaos Recipe in Trade League. Ours was 12 or 14C. It was pretty cheap. If you're in a group, it's different. Like for MP's team, but MP's team, I'm pretty sure MP's team has a person doing it for them. I don't think they individually do Chaos Recipe. In a group, we do Chaos Recipe, but then we just pull the short straw, and some poor fucker has to do Chaos Recipe for the entire group. It's awful. But yeah, generally, I never do Chaos Recipe. And I don't think I've ever earned less than 1,000 exalts in a league, and I've not done Chaos Recipe in 6 years. We're assuming Rexros, yeah. Can you explain the method when a map always drops from the boss? Nope, they removed that. 3.18. Sorry. I think we'll end the questions there so we don't have it too long. We're just under 2 hours. Thank you so much to everybody watching on YouTube. Sub if you like the video, and more importantly, give feedback. There's an exclamation mark feedback command. We'll link it in the description on YouTube and in Twitch. But yeah, thanks for watching. Sub if you like the video. But more importantly, try to die less than I do.